Hi, I'm Dennis Hanwell. I'm the Mayor and Safety Director for the City of Medina, and I'm glad you joined us for this program. We're going to do a community spotlight on the Recovery Center of Medina County. I had the opportunity to go over and meet with the folks that operate the Recovery Center in Medina County and the adjoining restaurant. I'm going to introduce them to you here in a moment, but I was so intrigued by the great work that they're doing there. I thought it was important to share it with the community, and we're going to do that in a three-part series. The first is going to be a broad overview of what is going on there. The second is going to be a program focused more on the restaurant operations itself and the purpose of that. And then last but not least, on the Recovery Center operations, purpose of that, and some of the achievements that they've reached so far, and the great work that they continue to do. So I'd like to welcome the three of you, and I'll introduce from right to my left, Trish Eddy is the Program Director and Peer Support for the Recovery Center of Medina County. To her right is Bradford Toth. He's a GM of the Serenite Restaurant and Culinary Institute. And to my left is Todd Whitman. He's the executive chef at the Serenite Restaurant and Culinary Institute. So, Trish, if we could start with you, and then we'll just go around the circle. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your role in the organization.
Thanks, Mayor Hanwell. So my name is Trish Eddy, and I am the Program Director at the Recovery Center of Medina County. And it's a passion for me. I have 7 years of complete abstinence and lived experience in both addiction and now recovery. Mm-hmm. And so I have the opportunity to come in and create programming, recovery groups, life skills, vocational training to a population who otherwise thought, hey, I don't think I'm ever going to do anything else. And so we get to instill that hope shot and work with an amazing team. So very excited.
Well, and as well as them being able to see you as a role model that, look, if she did it, I can likely do it too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, next I'd like to introduce Bradford Toth. You're the general manager, sir, of the restaurant?
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay,
sir.
Why don't you tell us about that?
So my name is Bradford Toth. I am the general manager of the restaurant and the Culinary Institute. I was once formerly incarcerated, which led me to deal with this population of people, if you will. So it's definitely a passion of mine to kind of help give some of these people second chances while teaching them a skill that will go with them the rest of their life.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. And last but not least, Todd Whitman. You're the executive chef, sir, so you're responsible for all the great food coming out.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. It's good to be here. My name is Todd Whitman. I'm the executive chef at Serenite Restaurant, Culinary Institute. I'm personally in recovery as well as Trish. I have over 6.5 years of total abstinence. I love what I do and I get paid to do it, so I'm in a win-win situation, and just leading by example, showing the students and staff that if you have abstinence, you could be successful in this industry.
Yes, sir. And the three of you, are all making a difference every day in people's lives, and I appreciate each of you for that, and I know our community does too. So let's talk a little bit about the organization. Trish, if you could start, and then we'll just go around and fill in any of the gaps.
So the Recovery Center of Medina County, the recovery portion of the programming, it's pretty interesting. So the students come in and we have a conversation, and then we start working on not just recovery skills, but life skills, emotional, how to handle urges, situations, going back into an employment situation. And while we're working in that situation, we start to incorporate them in over at the restaurant as well, so that if things start to come up in their process of recovery and getting back into employment and understanding all the feelings that flood back once we come into the process, that they have that backing and support on all ends. So that's one of the things that we've started to do and incorporate in And then each student gets there's a peer support that is specifically for the students. Like that's their focus, and it gives them an opportunity to start building bonds and trust with other individuals and learning how to communicate, which is one of the most difficult things coming in, learning how to communicate and not just speak out of anger,
Right.
as we were very used to prior.
And if I understand it correctly, the organization is a 501c3 nonprofit?
Yes.
Is that correct?
We are
Yes.
a 501c3 nonprofit.
Okay.
It's very interesting to see the community come together and being a nonprofit and being supported by donors, a couple different grants from the community, drug court. There's quite a few grants that are starting to come in and help us with that. But most importantly, without the community and the community support, I don't know that the doors would stay open. So very grateful for all of that.
Right. It obviously takes some money to operate it, and we're going to talk to the community towards the end of the show about how they can help keep the doors open and keep these good processes going. But Bradford?
Thanks. She mentioned the Recovery Center in Medina County being a 501c3 under the nonprofit, and the Recovery Center is where Serenite Restaurant and Culinary Institute comes into play. So we bring the students in for a total of about 8 months. It looks a little different for each individual person based on where they're at. But we take these people in recovery and we put them through our 8-month training program there in the restaurant. Typically, they spend 4 months with me working in the front, learning the menu, learning how to serve. Some people are learning how to answer phones. We really work with the individual person and kind of see where they're at. Upon completing the 4 months up front, then they'll go to the back and work with the chef as well. I'll leave that to him and what he teaches, but upon completing the total curriculum, the 8-month training, they are now ready to go to most restaurants, not just here in Medina, but wherever life may take them. They can go to those higher end restaurants, and you know, if some of them are not looking for higher end, they can go to those kind of lower end restaurants too. In addition to the Culinary Institute, like Trish mentioned, we're working on their recovery as well. We have a couple accountants on staff that'll help with budgeting classes and credit history and things like that. So we try to work on not just the recovery and the job training, but like Trish hit on, life skills as well.
Okay. So you're helping them from an overall standpoint?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And Todd?
Yeah, we're a nonprofit organization and Recovery Center, Culinary Institute, and we have a lot of resources. You know, when the students come in and they're transitioning from the Recovery Center to the restaurant to learn, in the kitchen they learn knife skills, the 5 mother sauces, our French sauces that we make at the restaurant, 3-2-1 pie dough crust, 3-1 oil vinegar. Vinaigrette ratios, and just a multitude. I teach the students how to break down whole fish. We've taken pictures, and it's just great to see a student come in and I teach them how to break down a whole fish and debone it, and whole meats, and just teaching them techniques, the how and why and how food works. But, I start at the very beginning of, like show them the equipment, and being respectful and professional at all times. That's my very first class, so I get that across the board so we all have an understanding, and I carry myself in that manner as well. So leading by example, showing them always be respectful, always be professional, because you never know who's going to come through the door.
Sure.
And you could get that big break of your lifetime. You never know when you come through there and later in life that you see somebody and you can get a great opportunity. And then it goes back to, the resources. We're teaching GED now. There's life skills, financial classes. There's 12-step meetings in the Recovery Center. There's a Bible study now, and just all types of sorts of meetings and resources for the student and the community. It's not just for our students, so the doors are open. I personally also teach ServSafe. I'm a ServSafe proctor, so any student that comes in, they can get a chance to get their ServSafe manager certificate. So anywhere you go that makes ready-to-eat food, you have to have a ServSafe manager at all times.
Okay.
And so we actually pay for the test. It's $40 a test, and it just teaches you time, temperature, danger zones, and things you need to know to run a restaurant. I deal with the health department when they come in, and you just need to know these things. And if they want to open their own restaurant after the culinary school or get into management, you're going to have to know these things and have this certification. So just showing them the skill set and giving them the tools that they need to be successful in the kitchen, and getting the recovery aspect, it's great. I love what I do, and I love teaching, and seeing the change when the students first come in, and then when they graduate. That's where I get my fulfillment, my happiness.
Right.
That's when I get the payoff.
Yes, sir.
And there's restaurant owners and executive chefs from all over that have called us and are waiting to employ our students. So it's an employee market right now too.
Good.
So yeah.
So there's a waiting list for those coming through your system.
Absolutely. So as soon as they graduate, we have folks from all over the area and surrounding areas ready to employ them, making pretty good money.
Right. Well, that's great. And it's interesting to me, Bradford, when you were talking, that as folks come over for the training, they know they want to work at a restaurant, but they may not know yet what they want to do. Do they want to be the first face in the door to greet people and welcome them and things like that, which is totally different than being back in the kitchen and tearing the fish or meat apart and cooking it to the right temperatures. But by giving them this broad overview, it gives them so many opportunities to serve in a variety of capacities, maybe even having to have those base skills to then manage a restaurant, because they have such a broad overview of everything that has to happen. And generally, I know, like my daughter, for example, was a manager at Longhorn, and then she had to leave there to have kids. But that's another story. But in any event, she worked her way up. She was a server, then she worked at the bar, and then she became the manager. And then had to oversee both the kitchen and the front and operations and customer complaints and things like that. So what you've described to me tells me that this is really a vast opportunity. It's not just teaching people to cook, or not just teaching people, how to seat or bus a table or whatever, but they could literally do anything within. And if they can find something that touches their heart, like each of you have told us, then they're more likely to succeed and be pleased with their life and help if there's depression and other issues like that, get through those things because they're doing something that they feel a part of. Okay, maybe next if we could talk about when the restaurant and recovery center was first started.
So the Recovery Center has been there since the very beginning of 2018. The Recovery Center in Medina County took over.
Yes, sir.
We worked tirelessly for about 4 months to open the restaurant in April of 2018, so shortly after the Recovery Center opened up. We have been operating the restaurant since April of 2018, so just under 3 years or so. Again, we work hand in hand with the Recovery Center to make sure that all the students coming through there get the recovery aspect as well as the restaurant training as well. Kind of going back to what you said before, not only are we teaching those restaurant skills, but we're teaching communication skills as well. Mm-hmm. So we will see a student that is not quite ready for the restaurant, but they're looking to go a different route as well. So we can kind of aid them in the communication to help them be employable once they leave there.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. So let me just, out of fairness, the idea of the Recovery Center of Medina County in 2018, I want to pay respect to Judge Joyce Kimbler and Judge Chris Collier. It was really their idea, as I recall, to get this started and to get the community behind it and to help. For those in the public who may not be aware, Judge Kimbler and Judge Collier are two common pleas judges who see all of the felonies in the county of Medina. And they were seeing such addiction issues, they wanted to take a proactive step instead of only dealing with the addiction issues in a criminal matter. So they kind of took a chance, stretched themselves out of the courtroom a little bit to open this. And here we are, almost 4 years later, and it's still going strong.
We're very fortunate that they had the vision set up for this place. Trish can speak on, she works with some of the drug court students currently. Mm-hmm. It's been a pleasure to work with both Kimbler and Judge Collier.
Right. Well, if you could talk about that a little bit, about how the drug courts, Judge Kimbler has her own, and which was just recognized and awarded by the Ohio Supreme Court, and Judge Collier has his own, but how that kind of becomes a feed, if you will, of participants in the Recovery Center in Medina County.
So currently, it's very interesting. The individuals that are coming over through drug court, a lot of them are coming over just for peer support and working and having the peer supporter. I was told I have to come see you, and then conversation starts to take place, and what I'm finding is there's an excitement underneath of it. So as the courts are saying, hey, go over here and talk to them about the peer supporting, they come over and they start to see other students and other individuals laughing and having a good time and working on recovery, and they start to become more inquisitive and start to get involved in the programming. They're coming to the meetings that we have, the 12-step meetings that are open to the public, as well as our SMART meetings. We're seeing more and more of their faces. So it's really building a stronger recovery community now that the courts are feeding into it. So it's been an honor, honestly. Sure.
Well, it's a great relationship.
Yes.
Instead of everybody doing things, I know when we talked at the restaurant, I'm a big believer in collaboration, and if the courts are doing these things and those things can help draw students and continue to help their recovery and them not getting back into their former lifestyle, we as a community should try to support any of those things to try to help them succeed. So maybe more on the, well, before I do that, I'm sorry, sometimes I jump. Let me ask you this. I know originally it was the Recovery Center and counseling operations and restaurant were all done within the restaurant. And then somewhere along the line, and I had some reluctance with that early on, somewhere along the line, then the Recovery Center and the peer support was actually moved out of the restaurant. If you could talk a little bit about that.
So our executive director, John Liebler, one day was sitting and an individual walked in for a meeting, and he just looked and said, hey, we're going to move the recovery stuff next door. And so we moved everything next door and opened and started operating the recovery center portion out of the house that's next door to the restaurant. And what that did was created enough of a separation where we could focus recovery groups and meetings and then culinary over here, and it's still one organization and one amazing team, but just even that little bit of separation was enough that it's like, okay, while we're here, this is where we're focusing. While you're here, you're focusing on the culinary piece, and then together as a whole, we support and work on it.
Sure. Well, and I remember when I had that conversation in my office with John, because I had met with him first. He and I saw each other at a common United Way meeting, and then I invited him over to my office to kind of catch up and get to know him a little bit. And he told me, with the example that you used, Trish, that when the person came in, the first thing as soon as you come in the front door to the hostess check-in, the first thing you see is the bar. And he told me, and I wholeheartedly agree with him, that that is not necessarily the first appearance we want for somebody who is struggling and looking for help with recovery, is to expose them to that. So I think moving the operations to the house was just a great idea. And if we could, Todd, we don't want to leave you out here. If you could talk about the cuisine there at the restaurant, because I know the restaurant is much different than any other restaurants in the city of Medina. And I've been there a couple times. Most recently, the lunch with the three of you and John. But if you could talk about the difference with your cuisine, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. I was under a French chef there for almost 2 years, and that's why I came here, to learn how to be a chef and run a restaurant, and to teach the culinary school. And so I learned a lot under Chef Gilbert, and I've been the executive chef for almost 2 years now. So I learned sauces and braising. And once I did that, I learned the French technique. It really took me to a whole nother level in my career. It enabled me to do a lot of things in my culinary skill set. For right now, it's wintertime. We have classical rabbit. It's braised with a Dijon mustard sauce for 2.5 hours. We have a classical coq au vin, and it's a red wine sauce. And all of our wine that we cook with, all the alcohol is cooked off. Mm-hmm. So we have sauces, and anything that we do, the alcohol is definitely cooked off.
Yes, sir.
And then I also want to touch on your last question, but when you do come in the restaurant, none of our alcohol or wine is out on the bar. So we're not promoting alcohol. Right. And everybody's not an alcoholic and an addict that comes to the restaurant. Right. It baffles me. I'm in recovery that I see a guest come and they get a glass of wine and they take a couple sips and they leave it. I can never do that. But getting back to the food, once I became executive chef, I knew, COVID hit, and so Chef Gilbert left, I took over, and so fine dining didn't happen. A lot of guests didn't want it in a box, so I had to rethink that through, and I made this huge to-go menu, more affordable single items for $12, like pastas with a side of fries or salad, and so that was a difficult time, but me and Bradford had came together and we figured it out, and so then it died down a little bit and folks started coming out, and so I just really worked hard with Bradford and myself just studying food and working with food, and they gave me free reign to operate and get ingredients and to figure things out, and so I've put in the time and the effort, and I've put 5 du jours a week on top of the classical menu. So we do a pasta du jour, a flatbread du jour, a fish du jour, a mussel du jour, and a soup du jour. And that's a lot on top of a menu. But it has really, I have figured out, pairing the ingredients with other, proteins and other vegetables and stuff. And guests really are ecstatic. And let me hit this point too. So I come out and talk to the guests a lot. And when I talk to the guests, they're like, "Chef, thank you so much. The food was so great." And I tell them, you know what? I didn't even cook a thing. The students did. The staff did. And they're just in awe. Right. And that's what our program is. I design the dish, show them how to make it, and just make sure that they execute it correctly. And it builds character and self-confidence with the students while they're in there. Yes, sir. And so that's great. And I've added really nice dishes on top of that. Each menu, I'll create a couple new things that I come up with on top of switching out the classical French, and it's pretty wonderful. We're a hidden gem, and people are starting to find out about us now, and so we're there. The hard work is paid off with the whole team, and I'm just ecstatic. I love creating and working with food. and it's just exciting. I get to taste, and the students do too. I tell them, if you're not allergic to the food, you're gonna taste it, because how could you not taste something if you're not allergic, and be able to taste it, know how it is, make sure it's fresh, make sure it's good, and be able to explain it, because the transition of being in the kitchen, and then when they go up to the front of the house, they'll know how to explain it better because they've tasted it. So any special and all the food that we do, like all the students taste. And I love what I do.
Right.
I mean, we have events that are coming up. We're going to do a clam bake wild game month. I'm going to do a flight of Wagyu. Wagyu to me is the best piece of meat in the world. And I'm going to do like 2 ounce Australian, 2 ounce American, 2 ounce Japanese. And so by doing these, exquisite events and doing stuff, it's drawing the folks that don't come in for, the French cuisine, which is I love. But it has drawn in other folks to come in and just try different things on top of the classical French menu. So they come in, they'll taste something at an event or a special that I'm doing, and then they'll be like, wow, maybe I should order a frog leg. And once they have it, they see how great it is. So
Yes.
It's just exciting. Food's exciting to me.
Sure. When I think it makes a lot of sense, I think it makes a lot of sense, though, you all talked about, the cooking side first and then the front end side, because almost any time I'm out to dinner, usually the customer is asking, the waiter or the waitress, how is this, or what do you think about that? And, generally they'll tell them, I don't eat that, or the ribs are very good, or whatever the case is. So what you described to me makes a whole lot of sense, because not only can they serve it, they can talk about it, they know how it was prepared. If there's a question, does it have something in there, for an allergy or something with a diet restriction, that they're able to answer that because they've already experienced it. And it's not like, in most restaurants, well, I'll have to go back and check, and they have to go back, and then they have to come back with the answer. So I'm sorry, you were going to jump in.
I just wanted to kind of hit on what Todd was saying. So the students don't come in and go to the back of the house first. That's kind of what Trish does. While they're with her for the first few weeks and working on the recovery, she'll usually give us a recommendation on if she thinks they'll be good for the front first or the back first, but we do split them up.
Okay.
Some of the people who do go through the back first, it does help because they've learned the food, so it is a little bit easier to explain for them. Mm-hmm. But some people do start up front first, and it works for them.
Yes.
What we're looking to do at the restaurant, we want to be the destination spot out here in Medina County. That is what we're striving to do.
Right.
With things like Wagyu and caviar, frog legs, escargot, the rabbit leg, like he mentioned, we want to be that destination spot. Mm-hmm. But we also want everyone to come to the restaurant, which is why you'll see things like our pastas, our flatbreads, and our burgers on the menu, so we can, kind of be that restaurant for everybody, for people who want to come out and, spend their anniversary with us, but also somebody who might be on their way home from soccer practice that just wants to stop and grab a couple burgers. We want to be that kind of friendly neighborhood restaurant for everyone. Mm-hmm. And we're also teaching these group of, people while they're there. Like Todd said, he doesn't cook most of the food. I don't serve most of the tables. It's all the students that that get to be part of that. And it's a really good experience when you come into the restaurant and you get one of those students that's brand new. First week, second week, they're a little nervous, a little jittery, and then you come back a month or two later and they've blossomed into this wonderful cook or server, whatever it is that they want to be.
Yes, sir. So how about if we talk about the curriculum a little bit, all the different things that the students are taught?
Absolutely. So at the beginning of my curriculum, I I teach the equipment. You know, I have to start at the equipment, because if you don't understand the size of the pans and like chinois, china cap, you know, and things like this, and a strainer is called a colander. You know, if you don't know what the equipment is, you know, I have to start there, because I don't want to ask you for something that you don't understand. So I have to teach them the very basic of all the equipment, because we use a lot of different things.
Yes, sir.
They've probably never used. And then I go into knife skills. I teach them different types of cuts: small dice, medium dice, large dice, julienne, and just brunoise cut. There's certain specific cuts, and we spend hours in class, you know, and if they want to really put more effort into it, you know, if there's nothing to do, they can get the knife, because that was the hardest thing for me personally. It was like learning how to use my knife. I thought it was all about cooking, but you're going to use your knife half of the time you're there, because, you know, you need a prep for it. And then I teach them the sauces. So we have Diane sauce, Bordelaise sauce, shrimp sauce, and a poivre sauce on there. And I think it's real important for them to learn that, because we sell there at the restaurant. And I have a recipe book that's in the upstairs kitchen. That's where we do a lot of the classes at. And there's classical ratatouille. I teach them how to do. Risotto is in there, marinara sauce, all our vinaigrettes. And each student gets a packet when they come in, and a copy of all these recipes, because I think it's very important that they have a recipe. And then also culinary math. That's beginning of the curriculum too as well. You know, how to measure between weight and volume, and understanding, you know, teaspoons and tablespoons and cups and measurements. And I start off with the basic, and then once they get towards the end of the program, I start teaching them more of the more sophisticated culinary math. If they're gonna, you know, be a chef, you know, how to create a recipe and your yield and how much it's going to take, because you have to price it out. And especially since COVID's happened, like things have jumped up tremendously. Some things have gone down. So just
the cost, you mean?
The cost
Yes.
is the food cost is just it's been up and down, and more up than down.
Yes,
you
sir.
know. And so if they want to run a restaurant or whatever it is that they want to do, they can have the understanding of how to make a recipe and what to sell it for, and the percentage of it.
Right.
You know, if they're running a business. Also, Serve Safe is a part of the curriculum. They have 34 hours of class time with me that I teach them. They have the Serve Safe books, and then they'll take the test that we pay for. And so that is a big part of the curriculum. And we're working on doing fresh breads and pastas and desserts. I'm training my sous chef Kyrie, who is a graduating student, which is phenomenal. And there's just a lot of hard work that's going into this, and classes that they're learning. You know, there's also, you know, building character classes. So when we're doing these classes, you know, I'm letting them know they're not only learning the culinary piece that we're teaching them, but it's building character and self-confidence. You know, and it's okay, because no one's perfect. I make mistakes. We all make mistakes. You know, if you do something wrong, you know, the guest will know. So, you know, we have a waste log sheet, you know, and things happen. And just like when I first learned how to cook and put things together, you know, I made mistakes. And so, you know, it's okay to make a mistake.
Right.
You know, just let's not put bad food out or just try to shove it, you know, somewhere where I don't see, because the guests know. And I told them, put love into the food, because the guests know. And consistency is key. And so they also make our classical French onion that will never come off the menu. Folks love it, come from all over. And so they're learning this cuisine and these knife skills and sauces and vinaigrettes. And I also challenge them too. I say, you know what? Come up with a dish once a month, and I would want to special it for them. And then also vinaigrettes, I challenge them. If there's a certain vinaigrette, or if there's something that you want to make, let me know. We'll get it in, and we'll make it. So it's pretty fun. I challenge them, and they challenge me as well.
Great.
So it's pretty good.
Gets their imaginations going.
Yes.
Yes. So if we could jump over to the Trish, the Recovery Center then of Medina County, and if you could talk about some of the recovery and life programming skills that you do for the students.
Sure. So one of the things that was important from the Recovery Center point of view was having that foundation for recovery from substance abuse disorder, but also learning how to live again. Simple things: how to grocery shop, how to budget, how to schedule appointments, time management, using a calendar, soft computer skills, communication. So we do bring in quite often people who specialize in areas like Bradford said earlier. We have someone that comes in and works with budgeting and money management. We have individuals coming in that talk about different avenues navigating child support and the court systems after and paying fees and fines and we really sat down and talked about making a grocery list and how do you do laundry. There's sometimes skills that we take for granted that needs to be learned. So we do the life skills, vocational training, and also the recovery piece, which is not just understanding the mind, but really understanding how to work from the inside out so that it's a lasting difference. We're looking for sustainability, not to be perfect. We want to make mistakes, and we want to make them while we're in this program. And I was listening to all of the amazing things that we offer in the high cuisine and the different things that we give the students and all of the services we offer. And we talked earlier about being a 501c3. And the one thing that makes us a little different is that every service we offer the individuals is free of charge. So it gives them an opportunity to catch up and get back on their feet and find that self-worth that they've been looking for.
Sure. And what is included in some of the programming that you do?
We discuss barriers and barrier removal. We talk about the mind of an addict. We actually use Dr. Labor's video and conversation on how the addicted mind works differently, midbrain, frontal. So we have the evidence-based. We use different cognitive behavioral tools and programming, as well as learning coping skills, learning how to recognize internally when we're fidgeting, different things, what's triggering us, to go back to where is it coming from, how can we get out of it in the moment. We work on learning to take responsibility for our own choices and the path that we're on. And then more important than learning all of the knowledge, a lot of us coming into recovery have had programming after programming after programming. One thing that's crucial for us is how do I apply it now? So application of all of the knowledge that you're getting, how do you apply it? And that's where our curriculum is focusing.
Well, and listening to the three of you, it seems like a very holistic approach. You're dealing with the mind, their attitude, their background, their future, really, with giving them the skills to apply, with helping them with resumes and financial assistance. So it's really interesting to me to see how well-rounded it is, as opposed just to dealing with one small piece of it. So how long of a curriculum, I know you mentioned it earlier, but just to reinforce, how long is the program?
So it looks different. It looks different for each individual person.
Okay.
It'll depend. So the curriculum for the restaurant and the Culinary Institute is usually about 8 months. That could stretch a little bit longer depending on what the person has going on in their life. Are they in drug court? Are they doing parenting classes? We try to meet them where they're at. So sometimes it takes a little bit longer. And then it also depends on what they need with Trish and the Recovery Center before they get to the Culinary Institute. Before anyone steps foot into the Culinary Institute, they must go through the Recovery Center and just kind of hone in on, why they're there, what brought them here, what barriers do they need removed, what help do they need with, whether it be transportation, child support. But typically the restaurant Culinary Institute piece is 8 months. And they'll do everything from the serve safe training and knife skills all the way up to serving the actual tables and learning the menu and the POS system and things like that. Short answer is 8 months.
Okay.
Longer answer could be longer than that, depending on what they need as well.
Right. So let me ask you this, based on that answer. They go through the recovery center first, generally. Do they have to go into the culinary program?
Yeah.
Or can they go through the services of the recovery center for their own well-being, but then do their own?
Great question. Absolutely not. The Recovery Center, like Trish had mentioned, is open to all of Medina County and the surrounding areas.
Okay.
We get people from Wadsworth, Akron, all the way out to Lodi. The Recovery Center operates as the Recovery Center.
Okay.
We have the additional piece, the Culinary Institute, and they do kind of collide, but for someone just looking for recovery services, that piece is open just to the recovery, and they don't need to bring those two worlds together.
Right. And then I guess the opposite of that would be, can somebody get into the culinary center that was not involved with the recovery center at all?
So the Culinary Institute only allows people who are in recovery to join the culinary program.
Right.
If someone is in recovery before they would be able to start the program, they would at least spend a week or two with Trish, kind of sitting down one-on-one, going through her assessments. We want to know, are they sober? How long have they been sober?
Right.
We want to know kind of what's going on before we add a 40-hour-a-week job, because that's what the Culinary Institute is. It's a lot of work, and it's a restaurant, so it's nights and weekends, and before we add a large piece like that, we want to make sure that what they have going on in their life is manageable.
Sure. So, because again, I'm big on collaboration. So if somebody's across the street at Kathy's house and they've been in recovery and sober, and they wanted to take part in the culinary program, do they have to first come through the recovery center, or can they make an application? Or another example might be Hope Recovery.
Yes.
Somebody that's been working for Hope Recovery for maybe 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever. The question's still the same. Could they still try to enter?
Mind if I take this?
Yeah, go ahead.
So essentially, yes, everyone is going to come through the Recovery Center first. It's just as we said with the Culinary Institute, it's just to understand some will do 2 months, some will do a month, some will do a couple weeks, and it is just to make sure we come in recovery and we think we're ready to go, I have it, and we don't want to just create jobs for individuals. We want to create lifestyle changes.
Right.
So how many days a week do you have counseling? Do you have probation? In all of the questions. So we do spend at least 2 weeks with individuals, and then there's a lot of times I go, hey, this individual's ready for you. But it is crucial so that we are sure they're ready, and we can meet their schedule needs.
So based on your knowledge and expertise, it's a case-by-case analysis with each individual as to whether they're ready for it or not. I mean, there's not a magic chart that, if you've been in recovery for this long, because somebody that might work, but somebody else, it's not near enough yet, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And we are very fortunate to currently have one student who lives at Kathy's house right now.
Yes, sir.
Also, 3.
Okay.
One that's in the Culinary Institute, 2 that are still working with her on the recovery piece, but 3 students who currently live at Kathy's house and work over with us at the Culinary Institute.
Yes, sir. Okay. And the students interested in getting into the Culinary Institute, do they have to have any kind of culinary background or restaurant experience?
That's the beauty of this program. They need absolutely nothing. They just a will to stay clean and learn a new skill. Most people that come through the institute have no restaurant experience whatsoever. Some people who come through the Culinary Institute were teaching how to answer phones and basic skills like that. So we really just try to meet everyone where they're at and, push them along in their journey.
And let's talk a little bit about employment then. They go through the Recovery Center program. They go through the training. Do all of the people then stay at the restaurant and continue working, or do they seek employment in another restaurant, or is it kind of a mix?
So the goal is for each individual or student, after they're done, to seek employment. The last couple weeks that they're in the program there. We, as a newer business the last 4 years, have had spots in the restaurant become available. So we have done our best to try and keep some of the students that we have trained at the restaurant, because they are ultimately the best people to train the new students coming in, because they've been through that exact program. We're very fortunate that some of the students that we've graduated in the past have gone out and done very well in the community at other restaurants. So we have a long line of restaurants waiting for the students once they are done with the Culinary Institute piece. Short answer to your question, sometimes there's a spot in the restaurant that's available to keep certain students, but it is it is expected that they start looking for other employment once they are coming close to the end on the Culinary Institute.
So it's possible, but the more normal is they would get employment outside of the restaurant.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And I think you told us, Todd, that there are a number of restaurants eagerly waiting for their graduation. Right?
Absolutely. Like I said,
take them in.
It's an employee market, and so there's so much opportunity right now, and so as soon as the graduates graduate, we could get them a job. Well, actually, they earned that. They earned that to get a position somewhere else, and so it'd be fairly easy to get in somewhere. The skill set that we taught them, the basics to get in somewhere good and have a career, and start off. So, yes.
Right. So we're getting close on time here. I don't know if each of you want to just give a few sentences or a minute or so on just your feelings and encouragement of those seeking recovery and seeking these programs, and then I'll wrap up with our upcoming two segments here.
Absolutely. I'll start.
Okay.
I hit on it earlier. We strive to be a destination spot here in Medina. We're all there just for the students, though. It's a really good feeling when you come into the restaurant or the recovery center and you get to work closely with these students. You get to see the nervousness. You get to see them kind of change and become a better person right before your eyes. It's been a pleasure to work out there. Todd said it a couple times. He loves what he does. I obviously enjoy working in a restaurant myself, and
yes, sir. This
is kind of the best of both worlds. For that. Lastly, I would say, we're doing a great thing here, but it does take the whole community, and not just the community, but the other recovery centers, the Hope Recovery Center, the Kathy's House. Collaboration works, as you said.
Right.
So we want to do our best to collaborate with everyone in Medina and the surrounding areas to make sure that we're giving these students all the best possible resources that we can give them, is what we're here to do.
Okay. Todd?
I'm very grateful and humble to be at Serenite, the Culinary Institute, and I'm in recovery with the students. And there's no big I's or little We's. We work well as a team, and individual case plans. And when the students are going through something, we can recognize that, and we work as a team to build them up, not tear them down. And helping them get through some hard times in life, and being able to be there for them and for them to break through on the other side to be successful and to abstain abstinence and be good citizens of the community. So I'm just very grateful to be where I'm at. It's special, and I love the people that I work with, and it's pretty special being able to go to work, enjoy what we do, and to help others, and to make really good food. So I'm just ecstatic. I'm glad in the spot that we're at. We're growing and sharing, and that's what we want to keep do. We want to keep working with other resources and helping people in every which way that we can. It's not just about us. Each case is different for each individual.
Yes,
whatever resource that we need, if we can't provide it, Trish or Bradford and I, we're working on getting them the resources that they need. So I'm very grateful. I love what I do, and if somebody comes through the program, and they take it serious, they can be very successful in this industry.
Great.
So,
okay, Trish.
So I first want to say the collaboration piece, and thank you to the community and all of the way that everyone has come together. We are many collaborations: Kathy's House, Hope Recovery, Lakota, Cats, Alternative Paths, the courts, and it really does make a difference. It makes for a more sound recovery for the individuals coming in, and for those that are not sure and still believing those lies and patterns that they can't do it and it's not for them, and even for the family members that are struggling to find help. I would just encourage that if each one of us can change our lives and come in and make a difference, that same opportunity is available, and not to give up on themselves. Don't give up on yourself, and we're as much for the students and the community and those coming in as we are for the families.
Well, thank you. Thank you all. We're blessed to have the Recovery Center in Medina County here, and we're blessed for each of you and all the hard work that you're doing day in and day out, and the successes that you've achieved so far, and the future successes yet to come, including the restaurant and all the operations there. If you as the community, we told you this is a nonprofit organization. If you as a community would like to help support it, you can do that by coming there and having a meal. You can also do it just by making a donation or having a fundraiser. There's information on donating online if you go to Medina County Recovery Center. Or you can also drop off donations, or the address is there as well if you would choose to mail it in to help support. As with any nonprofit, it takes money to make things work, keep the lights on, pay for the utilities, and the more we can support these efforts, the better off our community will be. And just a reminder, we're going to be back with you for 2 more segments. One is I'm hoping to go on site at the restaurant with our film crew to bring you an overview of the restaurant operations and how everything happens at the Serenite. And then on the 3rd program, we'll go next door to the house where the Recovery Center in Medina County and all the peer and support services happen. We hope you enjoyed the program, and we hope you'll join us for the next 2 segments. God bless.